Hello, and welcome to the Grouping and Mapping course, Chapter 3, Lesson 2. In the last video, we went over the basic pattern we'll be using for the sample application. Now that we've gone over the basic concepts, let's look at the repository for our sample application and see how the code is laid out to reflect this pattern. As a reminder, our app is like this. It's a web viewer app with the 4 widgets added to it: grouping and mapping, raw OData, procurement, and environmental impact. Now to the repository. Here it is. This is the repository for the sample application we've been using in this course. A link to it will be in the description below. In order to make navigating this repository easier and more convenient, I will be using github.dev. If you are unfamiliar with this feature, I will link to the GitHub documentation about it. By default, it opens to the README preview. One last thing I want to do before looking at the code is point out the top line here. This app was created using iTwin Viewer Create React App template. Most of this code was created during that process. There were 4 changes that were made in order to make this app our own. We'll go over them together. The first change we'll look at is our clients. There are 2 clients that we use in this application. The first is the Mappings client. It comes from the Insights client npm package. You can see the page for it here, and you can install it using the npm install command here. The second client that we use is the iModels OData client. This was specially made for this course. We can find the code for it in the context directory. For more information about this client, please start in the README. The next change is delivering those clients to our widget. We do this using the Insights client context, here in the context directory. If we look at the file, we can see that this is just a React context. By calling use Insights client, we provided the same instance of the clients across the application. And if we look in our app.tsx, we can see here it's declared and the instances are provided. If we scroll down to our viewer component, we can see the Insights client context provider wrapping our component. In our widgets, we just have to call use Insights client, and we have our clients. The third change that was made was to include our user interfaces. There were 4 widgets that were added for the sample application. The first one is our grouping and mapping widget. Just like the Insights client, it comes from an npm package. Here's the page for it and the install command here. We'll go over this widget and all the others in more detail later in this course. Looking at our source explorer in the widgets directory, we can see the last 3 widgets: environmental impact, procurement, and raw OData, as well as a directory for common components. The last change that was made was to add these widgets to our viewer. Each of our widgets has a provider class associated with it. This provider tells our viewer how to add the widget into the application. And we can see these providers added in app.tsx if we scroll down and look at the UI providers argument. Here's our grouping and mapping widget, as well as our raw OData, procurement, and environmental impact. And that's it for our changes. We saw what was necessary to both add and apply our clients, as well as our user interfaces. In the next video, we're going to see what's necessary to get started with the grouping and mapping service, building the sample app back up from the beginning. I'll see you then.